Hello and welcome. Welcome to this first lecture of 4th week. This week we are going to talk about the climate risks. So friends, in last 3 weeks we have already discussed about the basics of climate, the physics and understanding of climate and climate change, and also the scenarios, various projection scenarios, and also we have discussed about the temperature rise. So this week let us understand, because of this temperature rise, which is more of anthropogenic in nature, since we know that because of human activities, a lot of greenhouse gas emissions, and that is why the temperature rise. So with this understanding, let us know what would happen or what has happened with respect to this rise in temperature. In past 150 years or plus, around 150 years, Earth has already received a warming of 1.1 degree temperature, whereas our average is something about 15 degree plus. So this much warming at a duration of about 150 years is really alarming. So let us understand, with this rate of this fast of warming and other related activities in terms of the climate change variables, so how our system in terms of different ecosystems, our activities, the human well-being and health, everything is affected. So with that understanding, we'll also see that what are the adaptation options we have. So let us discuss this. The title of this lecture goes as Climate Risks, Socioeconomic Disparity and Adaptation Option. To understand this, we will look at the concepts. We will cover the concepts like what is climate risk, what is this the term risk we define here as far as the climate is concerned, and before that we will also see how with respect to the various systems, systems are affected by climate or climate change. Then we will understand the climate, ecosystem and human society as a coupled system. With respect to this, with respect to the risk, we will try to understand that it is a coupled system. And then impacts of climate change are observed in many ecosystems and human systems. This we will see in terms of quantification and some actual observations that have come from different parts of the world in terms of continents and from various studies, published literatures, and we will discuss how is the situation. And then after understanding this, we will go ahead in terms of discussing what are the adaptation actions and options we have. So we will see what are the options we have for this kind of for attaining and for dealing with this impact or effects of this climate change. Then we will also talk about how the social and economic imbalance or disparity affects this. So affect this means affect this adaptation potential. So with this also we will try to see, as far as Indian example is concerned, we will see how in past 5 years or early half decade of this decade, the earlier half, how much extreme weather events we have received, and that has taken a toll on our ecosystem and on the human being. And then let us understand with this slide, on the left hand side, the depiction of atmosphere, biosphere, ocean and cryosphere. And if you see here in terms of the CO2 concentration, the from left to right when you go, it is the concentration 1850 to 2018, which is really the observed one, and that varies at a scale of 260 to 420 ppm. So 1850 and now we are at 2018. Within this period of about how many years, about close to 170 years, the atmospheric CO2 concentration has gone from 260 to 420. So approximately around 1/3 fold increase in terms of the CO2 concentration in the atmosphere. Similarly, if you have a look at the next one is the precipitation, you see a variation as far as the millimeter per year is concerned, but we have kept a kind of annual average, and in terms of gray indicates that the data are not available and all those things. Then coming to the third one is the global surface temperature. You can very well see that and we have already understood that it has gone up to 1.1 degree, but at places there have also been seen the cooling effect. So, -1 to +1 has been shown, and even if the impact in terms of global sea levels and ocean heat content, also you can see that everywhere there has been a change in terms of deterioration. So, now to understand this what you say impact of climate change, we in today's lecture let us see that what we call as a risk. When you call a risk is a compendium of your hazard, vulnerability and exposure. So, on the left hand side you can see as far as the climate, and on the right hand side you can see the socio-economic processes. This is very important, friends, because on one side the impact of climate in terms of natural variability and anthropogenic climate change. On the right hand side this is uniform, this will influence everybody, but on the right hand side when you see the socio-economic process, here in terms of the adaptation and mitigation action, governance and socio-economic pathways, in terms of governance and adaptation and mitigation actions, and also the SSP pathways, you see there is disparity. So, this is what also we will try to understand. So, with respect to the upper one you see the impact, and lower we have put the arrow from this side in terms of socio-economic processes goes in terms of land use, land cover change in terms of the emissions. So, this impact, which is a compendium of or the cumulative of vulnerability, hazard and exposure, we are taking here as the risks, the risk which is thrown upon to us by climate change. Okay. So, we call it the risk out of climate change, or you say climate change risks. So, this risk, or you can see the risk propeller shows that risk emerges from the overlap of climate hazards, vulnerability and exposure. So, as far as the risk is concerned or our system is concerned, both means it is a triangular. You can see the climate, ecosystem and human society are a coupled system. Focus on the left hand side diagram. This itself is very comprehensive and well thought of and linked, what you say coupled system has been represented. So, first I will talk about the three processes what has been mentioned there: the climate change, the players, human society, and on the other side you have the ecosystem including the biodiversity. Look, we have started giving emphasis in terms of the biodiversity. On the left hand side when you take human society, so human being, we are considering everything with respect to human or human centric. On the lower right side when we are talking about the ecosystem including the biodiversity, that means we are concerned about the rest of the biota, including the plants, the animals, the microbes, right. And then coming to the connectors between the human society to ecosystem, you see the impact. If the human system in terms of the limits to adaptation and losses and damages, so it is affecting the ecosystem. And then we also are taking lot of measures in terms of conservation and restoration, that is some relief to the impact or devastation impact as far as the system or ecosystem is concerned. But on the other side the green arrow shows that provision in terms of livelihood and ecosystem services. So, this benefit the human being is deriving out of this what you say ecosystem, and that contain the biodiversity. Now, the relationship between the human society and the climate change, if you focus there, you will understand that the greenhouse emission, which is mostly anthropogenic or human society, and then we are also adopting something or maladaptation and mitigation. So, mitigation things will not come here now, and the impacts as far as the climate change impact, we are giving the greenhouse gases, throwing this to the atmosphere, so that is leading to climate change. And then because of the climate change, or you say the one factor, we say the rise in temperature, it is again impacting the human being or the human society. Now, let us go to the third connector between the climate change and the ecosystem, including the biodiversity. On one side, you see the climate change also affecting or impacting the biodiversity, whereas the ecosystem, including the biodiversity, you can also do some kind of adaptation so as to what you say adapt to the situation of climate change, so as to adjust to the situation of climate change. So, what I mean to say, this climate, ecosystem, human society, these are coupled systems. On the right side of the diagram, if you see from origin to timely action, and this side we are putting it in terms of what are the options we have to reduce the climate risks and establish the resilience. Friends, we have options. We have options in terms of adaptation, mitigation. We have options in terms of conservation, restoration, and ecosystem based, or you say nature based approaches. So, we have various options to reduce the climate risk and establish the resilience. So, we will discuss all these things in detail in using the help of some more slides. So, what I mean to, or what is the take home message here is the climate, ecosystem and society. Look very carefully, the human society is placed on one side, and the rest of the ecosystem, including all the biota, that includes all the life forms, plant, animal, microbes, everything. So, they have been considered separately. So, human society, ecosystem including biodiversity and climate change, these three are in a coupled system framework. Now, friends, with this understanding, let us see the impacts. The impacts of climate change are observed in many ecosystems and human systems. As you know, on the left hand side, the column talks about the impact in terms of the confidence. If you see the dark blue, then slightly faint blue, and gray color, then you have a open or blank circle. So, this actually talks about the confidence in terms of attribution to climate change. So, how confident you are based on the understanding, based on the evidences or observations. And here when we discuss it, the depiction have three different units. The first one, left one, is changes in the ecosystem structure. So, as far as structure is concerned, this has again been divided into three types. Also, the species range shift, I will explain now, and then the changes in the timing. So, friends, let us first have a look at these three phenomena. The first one is changes in the ecosystem structure, how the structure is getting changed. Structure is whatever you are seeing in terms of the ecosystem. So, you have a forest, what is seen in terms of a structure, how it is changing. You have the fresh water, the biodiversity in the fresh water and the biodiversity in the ocean. The next one is the species range shift. Friends, who many of you who are from little bit pursue the biological side of the science will understand it, that every species, human being is a species, the Homo sapiens. So, including human being, we have a range of tolerance, and based on our range of tolerance, range of adaptation, we are located and we are exposed to that kind of environment, and here per se that kind of climate. So, coming to this here as an example, the neem tree. The neem tree is occurring in certain range Okay, it's in a, it can tolerate a bit of temperature, summer temperature. So it is mostly you will find in the tropical belt. You will not find it in the temperate region. So the alpine plants you will find in the temperate region, and the grasslands you will also find there in the alpine or subalpine region. So why it is? It is because they are made to tolerate, adapt to that kind of situation, including here per se, including the climatic conditions. But let us say in this range you are giving them, or this particular species is tolerating, or the range is between -1 to plus 55 degrees centigrade, let us say an example. But then because of the climate change you are giving a temperature range, let us say plus 3 degree to plus 60 degree. So that means wherever this situation or this set of conditions are available in terms of temperature, this particular species will try to shift gradually. So this we try to understand in terms of the range shift. This is applicable to all the plants, animals, biota system, including human being. But human being has another way of adjusting. We use other artificial means. We use coolers, we use refrigerator, we use air conditioners and other things. So this is what we try to understand in terms of species range shift. Now friends, you feel that this particular plant or this particular animal used to be seen here, but it is no longer available because this particular plant or animal has started moving. Moving means what? It will try to move to a cooler place. Cooler place means from tropics towards the pole. Okay, from equator towards the pole movement will happen, from plain towards the mountain top, because you have a cooler temperature there. So this is, or if you say in terms of moisture stress condition, it will move from a less drought, it will move from a drought condition to a moist condition. So this is what we try to understand in terms of the species range shift. Now the third one is the changes in the timing, that is called phenology. So friends, the timing is very important. Earlier, let us say you see, or your parents say that, oh, earlier this particular plant used to flower during or by end of June or by end of July, but this particular is now flowering early or flowering late. So why this? There has been a change in terms of the timing, which we call, which we say that in terms of the responses to this climate change. And here particularly in the bracket the term phenology. Phenology means it is the external appearance. It is the more so the external appearance of the nature of the planet Earth, of our Mother Earth. So you see, the because of this climate change, earlier if the dry period used to be 3 months, the dry period now has extended to or prolonged to 3.5 months, to 3 months and 1 week. So that we call as a change in the phenology. So earlier you are receiving all this greenness during July, and now it is in terms of instead of first week it is moving towards second week. So this we try to understand in terms of phenology. So friends, the three impacts we can discuss under the structural change, under the range shift change, and under the phenology or the change in the timing in terms of their activities. We put it under physiological activities, and the leaf formation or leaf appearance, everything is a consequence of the physiological activities of the plants or animal in the backdrop. Now friends, here in these boxes you will see the minus and plus or minus kind of situation, where the impact in terms of affecting to human systems is given. So minus is increasing adverse, and plus or minus is increasing both in terms of adverse or positive impact. So look at this, same thing has been shown in terms of the adverse or the positive impacts, and the top three have changed here. We have put it across the water scarcity and the food production. We have put it under the health and well-being. We have put it under the cities, settlements and infrastructure. The previous one we talked with respect to the ecosystem. Let us spell it out here with respect to the impacts on the water and food production. Friends, our water system has affected because the drought, the change in the precipitation pattern and all those things. It has also started having an impact on the health and well-being. Health and well-being in terms of the plants, in terms of the human being. The third one is the impact on cities, settlements and infrastructure. So coming to the first one, the whole world is facing in terms of change or scarcity as far as water is concerned. So water scarcity, agricultural crop production, various changes at various places. Look at Asia, you have positive and negative changes. Africa, you see negative changes, and also the Arctic, you see both positive and negative. And coming to animal and livestock and health and productivity, you can see all both, and similarly fisheries, yield and other things. So the next one is impacts on health and well-being. Infectious diseases, lot of disease outburst because of rise in temperature, because of changes in other climate variables. Lot of new microbes, lot of new bacteria, they evolve, they give us the infectious diseases. And we already have started knowing it, that lot of malaria kind of infestation is coming up every time. There are a lot of reports appearing in the newspaper. So the heat, malnutrition and other things are also changing. That has started impacting our mental health. Friends, remember, during hot summer day, you come back from office, you come back from outer environment and get into your room where you have put a air conditioner or a cooler, or sitting somewhere where it is a very cool environment. Immediately you will feel a good positive effect in your mind. So what I mean to say, if you are exposed to a higher temperature or a changed because of climate change, your mental health will be affected. You will not necessarily be always a kind of bothering, angry kind of situation. So it has started affecting. So this report observation have come from the medical system in terms of change in our behavior affecting our mental health. And displacement, people have started migrating, started moving. Earlier people are moving because of search of job, because of search of livelihood, but now it has become a practice in terms of displacement. Friends, we are going to hill stations during summer time. What it indicates? It's a temporal displacement to escape from the heat, from the scorching heat, is it not? So that is what have started happening. After another 10 years, maybe the world will see you will construct a tower on top of your home, and you will climb up to another 100-200 meter to be there during the hot days, so that you will feel little cooler kind of things. Imagine some kind of situation this might happen, because we escape to hill and mountains because at every 1000 meter you get about 6 degree temperature relief, okay, as far as our lapse rate is concerned. So that we try to understand in terms of displacement. Now coming to the impacts on cities, settlements and infrastructure. So friends, we have been seeing that lot of impact in terms of this inland flooding and associated damages. You see the case of Mumbai. Every year you are seeing lot of flash flood events. It's at a very low level in terms of the mean sea, and lot of population, lot of your constructed area, no place to observe or very little space for the sun and the precipitation to be observed, and everything is choked, and you see immediately you get the flooding kind of situation. You go for deforestation, the had there been a piece of forest or forest land, there when the water droplets falls, it takes little time to come to the ground. Okay. So, a lot of at least 10 to 15% will be adsorbed and bit of delay will be there. So, that contributes to what you say that prevails the flash flood. But now we are taking up the forest in terms of deforestation, so which is leading to flash flood, and the flood storm induced damages in terms of coastal areas and damages to infrastructure and damages to key economic sector. Friends, the second 2 points in terms of infrastructure and economic damages, I would try to relate it in or explain it in other ways. Friends, you see, we have started receiving more and more extreme weather events. Our frequency of extreme weather event receipt have increased over last few decades. So, if you receive more of cyclones, more of flood, more of what you say drought kind of activities, more of fires, then what is happening? It is causing a kind of damage to our infrastructure, and so it is giving us to in terms of a toll to our economy. So, economic damage. So, this is actually the consequences of climate change we have started observing in terms of the ecosystems and for the human systems. Now, the point is, if this observation is with respect to 1.1 degree centigrade temperature rise, and whatever we are discussing from IPCC report, the observations are till 2018 or 2020 at best. So, the projections or the scenario based projections whatever we have studied in the last week, they tell us or they inform us that by end of 21st century it may, that means the most pessimistic situation may take us to a rise of temperature by 4 degree. So, you can see 3 different panels have been put before you. The left panel is percentage of species exposed to the potentially dangerous climate change conditions. So, you can see this in terms of the percentage of biodiversity that is exposed. The middle panel talks about the projected loss of terrestrial and freshwater biodiversity compared to pre-industrial period. The extreme right one talks about the projected change in global marine species richness in 21st century compared to 2006. So, all of them say, so starting from 1.5 to 2.0 to 3.0 to 4.0 degree projected projected temperature rise, you can see the condition is becoming more and more dangerous if we are in terms of exposure, in terms of biodiversity loss, right. So, it is very clear that we have to go for adaptation and mitigation option, otherwise our biodiversity will be in a kind of trouble. Now let us have a look at the adaptation actions for ecosystems and the biodiversity. Having understood this much, what are the options we have to adapt to this changing environmental changing climate change situation? Now, we know that it has already happened, 1.1 degree temperature rise has already happened in reference to the pre-industrial time, and we have now our projection, our model projection says that the most pessimistic may go up to 4 degree in terms of RCP kind of situation, 8.5 and all these things. Now, look at this. What are the options we have? The options have been shown here in terms of the bigger size, medium size and lower size, and in terms of different colors. So, that is in terms of reducing the risk of climate change. So, let us take the first the left hand side things first. Assisted reintroduction, translocation and migration of species. So, this is an option we have. We can see that yes, the place which is changing now in terms of model based output, you know that this place is going to receive this set of climate condition. So, the species which will be more suitable or can adjust there, we can take them there. So, that we call it assisted reintroduction or translocation. It is a genetic term. We translocate the species that can also adapt to that kind of situation, and also the assisted migration of species. So, we take them there. Think of plant species, think of the animal species. You have a biosphere reserve, you have a wildlife sanctuary here, and this place is becoming more and more warm, or it is becoming warmer. You shift a set of at least the animals to another place where towards the equator, towards the polar region, or towards the Arctic region, where you are getting little better situation in terms of temperature. So, this we try to understand in terms of assisted reintroduction. We will elaborate on this. And then the second one, adjusting conservation strategies. Adjusting conservation strategies and site objectives to reflect changing species distributions and habitat characteristics. So, if we change, if we adjust little bit, reorient lot of conservation strategies, okay, conservation strategy as far as the ecosystem is concerned, which is applicable to all the biota or biodiversity, and then a kind of site objectives to reflect the changing species distribution and habitat characteristics. So, that is what I just mentioned. If you have a wildlife sanctuary here, and this accommodates, let us say, a group of plants and a group of animals, and you want to shift them, you shift them 5 degree or 10 degree in terms of higher latitude. So, these kind of things are having a good, what you say, high level of success rate, and we can see this. Reducing non-climatic stressors, you can read the list is here, and in subsequent lectures we are going to elaborate on this. Then let us try to understand that in our as far as the Indian situation is concerned, the case study which has been taken from the Climate Risk and Vulnerability Assessment Report published in 2025. You see, as I mentioned, in early 5 years of this particular decade, starting from 2020 to 2024, you see the cyclone, in terms of cyclone Amphan, okay, all of us know it has hit the West Bengal and Sundarbans area where we are located now, and then the floods. So, cyclone, the floods in terms of Assam we received in 2020. Next year 2021, the landslide, all of us remember the Chamoli landslide, it has taken toll in terms of lot of loss of life. And then also we had this what you say, Taukte cyclone that has hit the Gujarat coast and the Arabian Sea. So, 2021 these two mega events in terms of landslide and the cyclone we have received. If you move on to 2022, so 2021 then 2022, we see again the flood and Silchar flood, lot of life and other devastation has happened, and also the flash flood effect we all know in terms of the Amarnath Yatra. And moving on to 23, the Sikkim glacier lake outburst. All of us know that how this lake outburst effect has happened and taken toll in terms of loss of life. And in Andhra Pradesh, the cyclone Maichung actually has got the hit in terms of the Bay of Bengal coast. And 2024, moving on to, we also have received the landslide in Wayanad, and in North Behera we also have received floods. So, if you count here, we have received lot of flood events including flash floods in Amarnath Yatra. We have been receiving periodically, or you say at an annual scale, we have been receiving now this flood and cyclones and landslide. Just to take example of 3 of these extreme weather events that the India has received in last 5 years. So, as far as the global figure is concerned, so more than or approximately 4 lakh people died globally from over 11,000 weather related, I will put it extreme weather related disasters between 2000 to 2019. That means in first 2 decades of this century, the loss, this is the actually the loss which is reported, and as all of us know, there could be many in terms of unreported, but let us talk about the reported loss here. It is, the figure is precisely 475,000 plus, close to 5 lakh in 2 decades. Is it not? Is it a joke? We are losing people, we are losing life in extreme weather related disaster to the tune of lakhs. So we are really prone to the effect of climate change. So we need to understand that, and we need to get ready in terms of adaptation, in terms of adaptation measures. And then these are the references I used for this. And to conclude, we will go ahead in terms of repeating this. We try to understand what is climate risk and the climate systems effects. We try to understand the climate, ecosystem, human society as a coupled system. So one is if one is affected, then the other one is getting affected, and vice versa. So similarly, we also talk about the adaptation options we have, and also we talked about the disparity. So we will elaborate more in our future classes. And to come out with an example of our Indian situation, we found that in last 5 years we have received lot of extreme weather events, mostly in terms of flash floods, the cyclones, the landslides, and the periodicity or frequency have changed. So let us continue our discussion in terms of more example based, and what has happened where across the globe, and more examples from India also, so that it will be easy for us to understand in terms of the human system, human health, well-being, and water, food, transportation, cities, and also the biota or the ecosystems. With this, let us go ahead with the next talk forward. Thank you very much.